Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Cooking with Carol Diane. Today, I'm going to be doing a little project because I received a really nice gift over the weekend of my husband's sister, which would be my sister-in-law, gave me a whole bunch of her garden green beans, snap green beans, and I'm going to can them today, but I'm going to be using my new pressure cooker, canning cooker. And so I'm going to go kind of the step-by-step to show you how to can green beans. And the first thing you need to do is get the green beans, which I have. These are all the green beans that she gave me. Aren't they nice? This is going to be really nice. So always with me, I like to take a strainer, a pretty good sized one. And you're going to take a good amount of these green beans. Now, I'm going to be canning 7 quarts of green beans today. So what I like to do is I get the green beans in any kind of a colander, strainer, and then I will take cold water and wash them all off, because after all, they have been outside. They've been outside in weather and bugs and different things that get on fresh vegetables. So you want to get all that cleaned off, anything that's on there, just take it off. And then I like to put mine in another bowl after I have rinsed them nice. So that's going to go in a separate bowl. And then this bowl I'm going to start in, and I'm going to start cutting the green beans into the size that I want for my canning jars. I'm using the larger open-mouthed canning quart jars. And so for the bean, there's about 3 ways you can do this. You can use a knife, you can snap them like my grandmother used to do on both ends, or you can take scissors and do the same thing. These that I'm going to do, I'm going to just cut into bite size, beans just about that size. That's all I'm going to work with to put into my canning jars. So I'm going to break away from the video now after I have completely cut off both ends of the bean and cut it into this size of what I need for my jars. And then I'll be back to show you the next step. So hang on, please. I'm back. This is the second step to canning the green beans. Okay, I have cut all of the green beans now into the bite size. They're all in here, and I like to just put mine in some nice cold water until I'm actually ready to do this. What I'm going to be using is this particular canning pressure cooker. This is a Presto. It's not a real expensive one. You can find them everywhere. But it has the little weights up here, and this is a 16 quart. The weights, I'm going to be using 10 pounds for my beans. So the little weights you just pull off, they just come off like that. So I take the one off because I don't want that much weight on mine. It'll go 10, 15, 5, 10, or 15, and I just want 10. So I'm just going to be using that particular weight. Inside my canner, you will have the bottom rack of one of these. This is the canner inside, big. And it has little marks on the side of it of where to put the water. I'm putting 3 quarts of water in the bottom of this can. I also bought this little gadget here that is a rubber item that you sit in the bottom of the canning container here. And that's going to help my jars from not rattling around when they are being cooked. So I'm going to fill this with water. I have a bigger one. I have a 32 quart canner that has the gauge up here that can tell me my 10 pounds of pressure. And I may use this when I do my peaches. I bought another flat of Palisade peaches, so I may use this one for that. And this is the little weights for it. Same principle. They're both Presto, nice little canners. So I'm going to take water now, and I'm going to fill up 3 quarts. This is a 2 quart Pyrex measuring cup right now, but I'm going to do 3 quarts in here, which will bring it up to that first line in the canner. I really appreciate my sister-in-law giving me these beans. Thank you, Debbie and Dave, for doing that for me, because there's just nothing better than garden vegetables of any kind, and then you want to save them, you want to preserve them. Now you can freeze green beans. There's an easy method to do that and stick them in your freezer, but today I'm just going to go ahead and do this of canning them so that I can have them. Okay, it's right on the line of where I need it to be. So my canner is ready. I will jump over to the stove where all this time that I have prepared all of these beans, I've gotten them all cut and ready. I have boiling water. I have my jars. I have 7. 7 will go in these canners, 7 quarts size jars. And I have a pan with boiling water for my lids. Now I have cleaned and sterilized all of my jars, all of my lids, and all of the bands. But I like to go ahead and keep the lids in boiling water until I'm ready to put them on the jars. So my next step will be now to take these beans, take all the water now off of them, make sure that they're all still nice and clean, that you don't want any little leaf or stem of any kind that is going to be on the green beans. And they're not. They look fine right now. It really does. So I'll stop my video. You need to go slow at doing canning. You don't want to miss a step, because if you do, then it won't come out and you could have real problems. The main one is, of course, botulism. When you're doing just a hot water bath of canning different things that you're going to make and save, that's one thing. But when you're using the pressure of a pressure cooker, that kind of eliminates the fear of the botulism, because it's at such a higher temperature that it's cooking these beans and doing that, you're not going to have to worry about that. Canning doesn't have to be something that is intimidating and that you're afraid of. That's why I want to go very slow and show you step by step. So I've washed all my green beans. I have cut my green beans the size that I want for my canning jars. I've got my canner now ready. These are heavy canners. They really are. They're not, they're where you can lift them, but once you get the jars in there and everything, they're going to be kind of heavy. If you have someone around to help, that's great. Please do. Today I have my husband here. He's out getting me lunch right now, so I'm trying to put the video together in different stages so that he can enjoy the lunch with me. But he'll be back to help me probably lift all of this, which is great. So the beans are ready. This is going to go on the stove now, and I'm going to start heating up this water, and I'll show you that next step, because there's a little step in between that. But the first thing is to get all my beans packed in my jars. So that's step 3 that I'm going to. So hang on for that, please. Okay, I'm back over here at my stove area now. Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with the beans as far as getting them in to the jars. I like to just do mine with my hands. So I'm just going to start taking the beans and packing them into the jars. You can put this on if you want. You have one of these, plastic or metal, it doesn't matter. The idea is to just get these beans in the jars all the way up to, you're going to leave that head space of 1/2 inch, so you're only going to fill to this line of this jar. That's all you'll need. That's all you'll need in there. Go to your next jar. Some of these are a variety of, really fat beans to little skinny ones, so they're going to be fine. And if I don't have quite enough to make my 7 jars, that's all right. I'm not too worried about it. It'll be all right. I'm just happy that I got the beans. I really am. This is going to be fun to do these and have them for, oh my gosh, Thanksgiving time, or canned stuff lasts up to, you know, a year or more, sometimes more. So just depends on how anxious you are to eat the beans. Yeah, these are pretty good sized jars. Now, if I was just doing the smaller canning jars, the beans that she gave me would be plenty. I'm probably only going to get, I'm not going to get my 7 jars out of this. I'm only going to get 4. Probably 4. 4.5. We'll see. And that's all right. Really, it's okay. Okay, so that's the first step as far as just doing that. Let me grab my towel a minute. Wipe off my hands. So the beans are in the nice sterilized jar. Now you want to add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, but I could not in my area, and I looked everywhere. I went to several different stores and I absolutely couldn't find the canning salt. But you don't have to have the canning salt. You can use sea salt, which is this right here, just the sea salt. So I've made it easy for me, and I just put it in a little dish, and you want to put that right on top of each jar, a 1/2 teaspoon, like so. And as you can see, I don't have very many of the beans left, so it won't even fill a jar, so I'm not going to worry about that. Then over here in this pot, this great big one that I have sitting over here, is my hot water that I have been boiling for quite a while. Been boiling that. I'll put this back over here, and I'm going to take the hot boiling water, and now I'm going to start filling these jars with the hot water. You have to have liquid in them. All the way. Can't wait to do those Palisade peaches too, to preserve them and have them. That's going to be pretty nice. Come up to that rim, the last little rim right here, with your water. Your salt's just going to get all mixed in there, so you don't have to worry about that. Just be careful not to burn yourself. And like I said, if you go slow with this, then you won't forget the different steps that you need to do when it comes to canning. It's no different than if you're putting up preserves. You just need to take your time and kind of walk through each one, and it'll all come out. And these are going to be nice. Really, really nice. When I buy corn on the cob, we have what's down here, what's called, it's a brand name from a town that we have down here of Olathe corn. And I used to freeze my corn all the time when I would go and get several ears of nice corn. And that's always nice to have. Okay, almost there. Have the salt in there, have the nice hot water in there, all the way up to the edge. And that's where I want it, all the way up to the edge. And I'll take my big pot here and get it out of the way. And over on another burner I have had, which I'll turn off the heat now, I've had the lids to my jars. I'll get rid of this. So I have a little bit more room. Take a nice clean damp cloth and go around the edge of your jars. Whoops, making sure nothing's on there. Nothing's on there. And then you want to take, I couldn't find mine today of my little plastic canning. It's what you put down in the jar to make sure there's no air bubbles, just take a knife. It doesn't have to be precise with all the canning equipment unless you have it. I think mine's clear out in my shed, along with some other jars and things that I have that I can't get to right now. But truly, all you want to do is make sure that there's no air bubbles in there of any kind. Okay? And again, if you want to go a second time of making sure everything on the top is all nice, that's great. Now we're going to take the canning lid and we're going to place them on each jar from the nice boiled water that they've been sterilized in. And you want to be careful because everything is, you know, very hot when you're doing canning. Okay, so we have the lids on now. And now we need to put the bands on, rings, whatever you want to call them. And again, I like to use some kind of a towel to kind of hold the jar because it is hot. So I will do that while I'm screwing down what they call just finger tight, just loosely but tight on there. You don't want to give it like what I showed you when I was doing the jam because that would be too tight. You just want finger tight on the jar. Okay, now I'm going to go grab my pressure cooker. I'm bringing it over here to my burner, and I'm going to turn on the burner on high to get this water that I put in there of the 3 quarts to get it nice and pretty warm because you're gonna, you know, it's hot now, but I want it more than that for these jars to go in there. Then I'm going to be setting all 4 jars in there, and I'm going to be putting the top on the pressure cooker. Now there's a little pop thing right here. It comes up and down. I'll show you that here in a few more steps, what it's all about. But I have this, the top, I have my weights, but they're not gonna go on just yet. And so I'll pause a minute to wait for this to heat up before I put my jars in, and I'll show you the next step, because there's quite a few little different steps. It's easy, but there's steps to it, so I'll be right back. Back again. We're still working on these beans of canning them. Okay, so I've placed the jars, these jars, into my pot that has the 3 quarts of the hot water. I'm going to add just a little bit of vinegar into the water, and that's going to help, not very much, not having water spots on the jars. Now, I'm going to take this lid, and on this particular canning cooker, it has an open and closed with arrows right here that you line up with the, you just line up here with the arrow on the handle. And then it just kind of snaps shut like that. And that's great. I'm not going to put on the weight yet. I need to go a good 10 minutes of allowing steam to come out of here. When it starts with the steam, I will time it for 10 minutes before I ever put the weights on. Once I stick the weights on, then comes the timer. Because I am high altitude, I'm going to be going 35 minutes, 30 to 35, but I'm going to go 35 minutes of my cooking time of the pressure of the 10 pounds in here. So I've got my timer set, not set, but it's ready to be put on as soon as this gets to where the steam's coming out. And I'm going to go 10 minutes of not having the weight on until that gets 10 minutes of the pressure of that 10 pounds. So I'll be back after that happens, because you don't want to just sit here for 10 minutes, but I have to sit here in 10 minutes and watch this, and then I'll come right back. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and my pressure cooker has been on the fire of cooking, not cooking, but getting hot. for the 10 minutes, allowing this steam to come out right here. Now it's time to put the weights on. So I'm going to put the weight on. I cannot start, you should not start, timing this until that weight starts to rock. And we want a gentle rock when it starts to rock back and forth. When the little weights start to rock back and forth, you can turn your fire down from the high to probably medium high would be okay. And then you would do your timer for, normally it's about 20 minutes, but like I said, I'm high altitude, so I'm going 35 minutes for my beans. This will start to pop up, this little button right over here. When this is finished after 35 minutes, I will pop back on and show you the final step, because you don't just take everything off and open up the lid. You don't want to do that. That would be fast and that would harm the jars inside. This is a slow process. So right now I'm waiting until that little weight starts to do the little rocking motion, and it will. So I'll be back on when that starts on that and timing it then for 35 minutes. Okay, I'm back once again to show you that now my pressure cooker has started with the weights doing the rocking motion, and that's what we need. So now I'm going to set my little timer, and I'm going to go 30. I'm going to go between 30 and 35. I'll give it about 33 on this, that I would like to cook these beans. You just want a gentle rock, just a little gentle rock. I'm going to turn my fire down of my heat to about medium now, and just let this cook in here for the time that I want. Then I'll come back on when my timer has stopped and show you the final steps of after you have cooked your beans, what to do with the pressure cooker, because it's very important. So I'll be right back. I'm just popping back on for a minute to show you that I've got about 20 minutes still to cook for the pressure cooker. It's doing its little wobbling on the weights just fine at about medium heat. This little button is popped up, which that's what you want it to be, having that popped up. So all looks good, and I'm just gonna wait out the time now for 20 more minutes, and then I will come back on because, like I said, you don't want to just open all this up real fast. I will be turning the heat off. I will be taking the pressure cooker off of the burner, and then I'm going to wait probably a good 10 minutes before I even take the weights off, and I'm going to wait a good 10 minutes for that little button to go down, because that's what it needs to be. I said this is 10 pounds of PSI, and PSI means pounds per square inch, and that's what we need on that pressure cooker. A water bath method will get you 212 degrees, whereas a pressure cooker will do the 250 degrees, and that's what you need. Beans are a low acid food, and with that, a pressure cooker kills the bacteria. And that's what we're after when we're doing pressure cooking of canning any food. There's a book out there, it's called Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving, which I'm going to get if I'm going to continue to do a lot more canning. I haven't done the pressure cooker canning like I have the water bath canning. I prefer it a lot more because it's a lot easier, but there's nothing wrong with this method either. It's pretty easy. So like I said, here in another good 17 minutes, I'll pop back on, and that should be close to the end, where I'm going to remove all of this, let it slowly go down in its pressure before I ever open that lid and start taking the jars out to set on just a kitchen towel. And it's very much like my, when I do my cans of jams, that once I get them out of their hot water bath and onto the counter, then you just leave them alone. You just let them rest and leave them alone. And that's what you're going to be doing with this for a good overnight, 24 hours. Just leave them alone. So I'll be back in about 16 minutes now, and doing the slow process of letting it all cool down. So I'll be right back. I'm back on. My timer just went off 1 second to go from my timing of what I was doing with my pressure cooker. So now I'm going to turn off the heat to the burner of the pressure cooker. But that's all I'm going to do as far as that part. Now I'm going to take my pressure cooker and take it off of the burner, because we don't want any more heat going under it even while it's cooling down on my stove. I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch anything on this pressure cooker for a good 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, in fact, I will time it, my 10 minutes, so don't forget. Then I will take the whites off, and I'm going to wait another 10 minutes until that little popper right there goes down. That releases the pressure part of it. And then I can open the lid and start taking the jars out. So that is going to be the final step to all of this, is taking the jars out. I hope you've enjoyed the kind of step-by-step of how to do this, of canning with a pressure cooker. It's not real hard. I think I'll call this one Pressure Canning 101 because it's not too hard to learn. There's just a few little steps that you have to do along the way. Make sure you have your salt in your hot water when you put it on the beans, and make sure that this is a nice gentle rocking motion of your weights. That's very important. So I will end the video now. The next picture you will see are probably my jars on the counter here on my towel, cooling down, and that's going to be some nice beans. So thanks again, Debbie and Dave. I really appreciate it. If I had had maybe 2 more gallon sacks of beans from you, I probably could have got the 7 quarts, but it's okay. I'm happy with 4 jars. I really am. So from my kitchen to yours, this is canning with fresh garden green beans. Catch you next time.